Hey everyone, welcome back to the Visually Stunning Movie Podcast. I am Mark, and with me again, it's Val. Val's back.
Hey.
We're gonna talk about a Sundance film called Girl Picture.
Yeah.
And it's foreign film. Let me get that out of the way. So subtitles. And it is about these three young ladies who, over the course of 3 Fridays, we get to watch all three of their lives change in dramatic ways, depending on the girl. So, as a not teenage girl in a foreign country, I needed another viewpoint. Hence, Val is here, who was a teenage girl, probably not in another country. Unless you count California, I guess. If California is another country, I guess that counts. No, so it's a nice coming of age kind of film with problems and frank discussions, and mistakes are made and choices are made and choices are regretted. And really, though, it's about 3 girls, but really I consider it more of a buddy between the 2 lead girls. And then the third one comes in through her relationship with one of them. And so then we get a little wider picture, but it's about 3, but really it's about these 2 friends that start together. Yeah. They work at the mall side by side at the juice place with the really great juice names, by the way. I think it's great. They just kind of haphazardly make up these weird names depending on what they're juicing, whether it's bananas or mangoes or this or that. Just make up great names. It's like I would drink juice if we had a juice place like that,
right?
But excuse me. So we have all of this teen or just post-teen angst. We have one of the girls is a professional amateur skater, on her way up, and so there's just all of this stuff. Val, what do you think this movie is about, and how do you think it does in giving us what it's trying to say?
So I just think this movie is about life. I mean, when you're growing up in different stages of your life, you go through times when you are thinking about your future. You go through times when you and your friends or the people in your lives get along or don't get along. And in America, we tend to put all of these times of life, of actual living, in these categories, right? And especially when we have young people, because they are just like in high school, almost out of high school ages, kind of as we see them going through this. And then we tend to, in America, make sure that we break down every instance of what's going on. We've got 2 girls, they're best friends, they get in fights. One of them's jealous of the other one because one has a relationship and the other one doesn't. One girl wants to have an alternative lifestyle, so we're going to go down that route. And the other one, in this case, instead of having, being Twitter pated over a boy, is Twitter pated over a girl. And what I love about this film is that it doesn't talk about it at all. There is no talk of sexual preference in this movie. It just is. And I feel like in America, we make such a big deal about it. If there is someone who is gay or queer in a movie, we have to just play that up. We have to play that storyline to say we've covered that area, we've covered the quota of this storytelling. But in other countries, especially in Finland, in Europe, they don't do that in their movies. It just exists.
Well,
and so for me,
American
it's just
films,
a movie about life.
Yeah, in American films, there's always a commentary. They don't just play it high, but someone in the film, there's always commentary in the film. They always have to go out of their way to explain it or point it out. And you're right, here it's a relationship just like any traditional quote unquote relationship you would see in movies at all time. These are the people that happen to be together at this particular time. And I like the fact that the other girl, she's like relationship handicapped. She can't connect with anyone.
she's choosing to live an alternative lifestyle in that she just wants to have different kinds of connections with people instead of one connection with one person. And in America, we slut shame that, right? So in this movie, this girl wants to, one, she's just awkward. And I mean, how many of us were awkward at that as teenagers, right? And teenage girls are super awkward, especially when it comes to taking charge of your own sexual life. And again, in this movie, they don't slut shame this girl. They don't make her feel bad about her choices or make us as an audience feel like we should make her feel bad about her choices. And so it was just, for me, it was so refreshing to watch a movie where I'm just watching these girls live their lives. They are making huge mistakes. They're making small mistakes. Their parents are making mistakes.
Oh yeah. As parents do.
It's life. We've all gone through this. And I love the fact that they're working, at the mall at the Shake Shack or Shake Shop or juice bar, because like I had a summer where I worked with all of my girlfriends at Raging Waters, you know what I mean? And you go to the mall, you work with your friends, you get caught up in lifestyles, you get caught up in what's happening, and you make things out to be bigger than they actually are. And I feel like that's all the time, no matter what period of your life that you're in. But when we're teenagers, we blow it so much out of proportion. But you have the thoughtful one, she's an ice skater. She is very strict to her thoughts, strict to her ambitions and what she's doing, to the point where she almost closes other people out. And then you have this other girl who female character who wants to absorb everyone in. And so they're this great juxtaposition of, they complement each other. And I think we all kind of have a connection with it, whether it's either a sibling that's that way with us or a friend that's that way. And so it's so easy to latch on to these characters. And I had a chance to talk to the director and the actors of this film during Sundance. And the director said, almost the same thing. She said, this is just a story about life. These girls are living their life. There are no labels. There are no, we've got to pinpoint this story. It's just, they woke up every day and had to deal with these things. You deal with falling in love. You deal with falling out of love. You deal with trying to decide if you want to be in love or you just want to, have different encounters and different connections with people. And then you have to deal with the aftermath of the choices that you make.
Yep.
And it was just really refreshing to talk to a female director who had a lot of thoughtful directing points in this movie for these female characters. As a girl, I mean, you brought me on the show because I'm a female, watching things.
Well, and you're awesome.
Thank you. Growing up and watching things like We're All That, all of those like teenage movies that we watch. She's All That. That's what it is. Like movies like She's All That, Empire Records, like all of these movies where you've got two girls that are friends that ultimately end up screwing each other over, slut shaming one or the other person, fighting over a man, like all of these things. It was so nice to just see smart female characters that are also a mess.
They're also a mess.
And we're not shaming them for any reason, not for being gay, not for being, wanting to try out sex. I'm just going to say it. We can actually talk about sex in America. Sex is worse than building a bomb. I don't understand it. But for me, it didn't feel like I was watching a silly teenage movie. You know what I mean? It just felt like I was watching these girls grow up.
Yeah. And I mean, Ryan and I have talked about this phenomenon before on the podcast where, it's like when they try to make movies and, check, it's like, just make a movie with characters that are good, with a story that's coherent. And if you do that properly, all the points that you've tried to make, they're baked in, and you don't have to sit there and go check for the audience. And they'll make a good, and it'll be a good movie and people will respond to it. This is one of those movies. that you have solid characters, you have good writing, you have realistic, for the most part, realistic events.
Yeah.
And so you can identify with any character in this film because it's real, or it's real enough. It's still film, but you know, it's real enough. It's identifiable enough.
Yeah.
I interviewed the two lead actors from a Slam Dance film this morning, Hannah Ha Ha. And I loved that one because it's the character, the stories that they're telling are so authentic. All these little bits are just, they're so real. You can just like, yep. And it makes it to where you're worried about what's going on instead of how they're doing what they're doing. And I think that there's an important difference, and Hollywood needs to just start giving us the stories that we need, not what they think don't tell us what you're doing. Just do it and be done with it, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Maybe not on the first viewing, maybe not on the second viewing, but if it's a good enough, maybe on that third viewing, we'll be like, hey, I never realized X before.
Yeah.
And we'll move on. But no one's gonna fault a filmmaker for that. And you're right in that oftentimes to get one in the door or in front of people, it takes, in this case, a quality female director to give us that quality story. I mean, and this could be gender swapped. This could be two guys. It's still people trying to be humans in a world full of other humans, and that is a hard thing to do. Humans are we're inherent. I mean, we're the most antisocial social species out there. And yet somehow we have to manage to live together. So whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, whether you consider yourself something else, you still have to live in this big thing of people. Yeah. And so it doesn't really matter. So the more you see of every conceivable person in a situation that you already know, that makes it more relatable. Yeah. And you're like, oh, yeah, everyone, we're different, but we're not really that different. And that's the key, because we're not really that different. Everyone, you're right. Everyone is awkward. I was an awkward teenager. I'm still an awkward teenager. So it's a thing. I'm an awkward teenage parent at this point. So you never stop. Everyone is always awkward, by the way, out there. Don't worry about it. You might think you're not, but you are. And it's okay somewhere. But this is just one of those films that it's the one we always ask for. It's the quality film with the good storytelling and the solid performances. That's not, there's not explosions, there's not aliens invading. It's just a nice story about people, and nice stories about people are good. Yeah. Whether or not their behaviors are necessarily good in any one instance doesn't matter. But if you give us it's just I hate that we have to harp on it so much. Quality story with a good performance. Yeah. And people will watch your movie. People will watch your movie. I don't know where this one's going to get distributed, but I know it will. It will wind up in theaters at some point.
I definitely hope so. I want more people to watch this, especially in the United States. And I think especially in film school, like this is a good one to say, yes, you can check off the boxes, like you said, of the way you tell a story. Like, of course, you need a beginning, a middle, and an end. You need to have, characters that move the story along. But you don't need to check off the boxes, like you said, where it's like, we need to have this, we need to have something salacious, we need to have something explode, we need to have somebody have a drug overdose, we need to talk about someone gay, we need to have, a female that's over sexualizing herself, like it's all these things. And I'm open to watching all of those things in a movie when they follow the storyline, not just to have them in a movie. You know what I mean?
100%.
It was, I don't know. I loved it so much. I watched it. What was great about Sundance is, you had I had the Roku set up. Mm-hmm. And so it gave you a certain timeline to watch the movie. And I watched it 2 times in a row, just because some of those awkward moments where the one female character, would say just the most cringy things at parties. And I'm just like sitting in my bed, just like, I'm so embarrassed for you. Like, stop talking.
I know yeah, that some of that stuff was just great. It's like, what is that even? I don't even know how we
But
got
we've
there.
all had that moment where somebody's talking to us, and as the words are coming out of our mouth, we're like, why are we saying this?
That.
Why can't we shut up right
Yep. So you watched it back to back. That's funny.
I did watch it back to back.
That's pretty
And
cool.
I interviewed the filmmaker before I had seen the movie. So I don't usually like to do that, but I didn't really have a choice. So it was really nice to kind of meet all the actors and meet the filmmaker and then watch the movie. And kind of, I don't know if I would have seen it the same way if I would have seen it first. You know what I mean? I don't know. You never know in that instance what's going to happen.
Mhm.
But I loved the fact that, you know, she did talk about these, like you said, like these could be female or male characters. Like we don't really touch on the sex or sexuality. We're just following these kids around and they happen to, you know, relate to being female, so.
Yeah. When we're talking about Hollywood, I think the Hollywood version of this film, unfortunately, would have been a girl and a gay guy working.
Yeah.
And that's the way Hollywood would have tried to handle all of this. And it doesn't matter,
times.
But it's just, it's just the way you put the elements in is just as important as having them in.
Yeah.
So having them just to have them is not important, or it's how you integrate all of these things that is the important part. And I think Hollywood is still trying to figure that out. And I think European cinema is 3 or 4 steps ahead in terms of presentation.
Yeah.
So, but it's really, it was very entertaining. And I'm glad you I knew you would. I watched it. I was like, you're going to watch it. I think you're going to like it. I think I compared it kind of like in presentation or handling topics to Booksmart when I mentioned it to you.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that holds up, all the way in hindsight, but it's pretty similar.
I think that because Booksmart opened us up a lot to non-judgmental relationships between females.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't go as far as this one, but in the United States, it did pretty good for what we have here, right?
Right.
It still had some moments. This is a thing. I do think there's a place to have shaming moments in movies because I think it teaches us to not do so, right? But when you constantly see it over and over and over in every movie, I feel like it's just kind of something that you have to check off. What was great about Booksmart is that you did have the comedy with the awkward, where I think this film, there was some comedic moments, but it was still more of a drama than anything. Where Booksmart, there was some tongue in cheek, there was some comedy, but there was also some very important things between, friends, sexuality, parents, kids, and sexuality that, opened up for the conversation. Both movies open you up for a good conversation, which I think makes a good movie. If when you're done watching the movie, you have a good conversation with your family, your friends, or your kids or whatever, then you did a good job. So, but yeah, I mean, I think people that like that movie would enjoy this movie.
I think so too. I really do. So, well, thank you for coming and talking about this for starters.
Yeah.
It's nice that you're now COVID free again.
Yes.
So we saw you last night at the screening of Death on the Nile, which I'm sure we will talk about in the future soon. But I actually have no idea what you think of that. I didn't even ask before you left, and I don't want to know yet.
I want to put this out there. Just ask this question: why did they change Armie Hammer's name in the credits?
I didn't notice. I will look.
He is not listed as Armie Hammer, and I have Googled it, and nothing is out yet. So I will Google it again.
Interesting. I guess
I'm going to give you a theory, and it could be totally wrong.
Sure, but I'll take it. Dude, I watched Moonfall. That's all conspiracy. Give me a conspiracy.
Well, this is a theory of, how when you have someone commit a crime, and lately in the news, they don't want to continually show that person's picture or say that person's name because it's not good for the survivors or for the people who died or whatever. I'm thinking maybe because they weren't going to release the film, then they decided to release the film. Then they were going to recast him and do like the whole Teague, thing where they put a different face over his face. They decided just to put the movie out. And I'm thinking maybe they changed his name in the credits just to kind of take away a little bit of power of the situation. I could be looking too far into that, but I have never seen a name be changed, because that is his legal name, isn't it?
I believe it is, and he's always been credited as Army Hammer.
Yeah, so
that's
odd.
Interesting.
Odd.
No, I'm curious.
Everyone has
to wait. Everyone has to wait now while I'm on IMDb just to see.
On IMDb, he is listed. I looked on IMDb, he is listed as Army Hammer, but in the credits last night, next to his character's name, and I should have written down the name, it did not say Army Hammer.
Well, you know what's funny now?
Huh?
Oh, there he is. He's way down the list on IMDb.
Yeah.
So that's odd. That's interesting. Now I don't know. I did not catch that. I was busy scribbling some notes. Huh.
So I just throw that out into the universe. Everybody figure it out. Somebody let me know.
They Alan Smithied him, I guess, is what they did. So that is strange. That is very, very strange. Oh, well. But to that point, we're back in theaters because now we're out of January.
Yeah.
And so we're getting more films again, which is nice. 3 this week. We've got at least 1 next week. What do we the Batman is coming, the beginning of March, so we'll be looking for that screening.
The
that
new
at the
Tom
end of the
Holland
month.
movie is coming out.
Uncharted, yes indeed, that I'm sure we'll be subjected to that one as well.
Hey.
I'm not prejudging it at all. So it's nice. We'll be back in theaters. Hopefully we will have you back again, as well as Ryan, as his schedule is getting back to more normal from his day job, I guess. So thank you. Any last thoughts on Girl Picture before I wrap this up?
Just try and find it and watch it. Like, I'm hoping as soon as it goes out, maybe we can, post on our mutual places where it's at to go see it. And check out the interview on What to See with Val on Facebook if you want to see the interview with me and the filmmakers.
Yes, absolutely. We will link that as well. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and check out Girl Picture when it becomes available. We will let you know. But until we get back to you, I'm Mark.
I'm Val.
And we will see everyone later. Bye-bye.